y'all on.
Y'all don't forget, I gotta go in the room.
I'm so glad that wasn't recorded.
Brandon's going in the locker room too.
Oh man. Yo, I'm so happy, especially with the crew that we have on today. So let me get things started because I want to get right away into Rod's thoughts. Mike, I love this. I love this new segment we have. And I do want to get Mike Curtis's thoughts right after that too. 2 pair of shades today, okay, guys? We got the shade.
You got the Cades are there. And which ones are those? Those are your studious ones?
Store shirt too. The studious ones, man. Listen, we're getting closer to basketball season. Getting closer to training camp. Oh my gosh, man. I spent like the last 3 days in numbers, like into basketball stuff. And came away with some interesting stuff about Monty Williams that I want to get into. How he affected the start of that Phoenix Suns team and specific players that I believe can kind of translate over to how he may affect the Detroit Pistons as well.
All of them? All of them.
What'd you say?
All of them.
I got some specific ones, man. Look, he's going to affect all of them positively. But Isaiah Stewart, I know people are wondering, like, yo, they just signed up to this big deal. It's kind of undersized. People say smaller hands. And I was looking at some stuff, and I was like, Monty has been there and done that already. So I want to kind of get into that, especially the Cade stuff and Asar Thompson in the wings. I don't think people understand how tailor-made the talent we have on this team fits the skill set that Monty Williams has already shown as a coach. So I really wanted to break it down. I got some advanced stats as well with Devin Booker. He was already a monster. He was already shown to be a monster. But Monty Williams did something very, very strategic, and the numbers prove that as well. So we're going to get into it. Like I said, basketball season. Ooh, it brings a little bit more out of me. Mike and I were just talking about it beforehand, man. I'm going to ask you when we get going to what you're looking forward to as well. So, but first, help me get this drum roll started. Shout out to Jeff Ifrate on the Morning Woodward Show as well.
But let's get this going, Mike. Which Jeff we got today? We got water bottle, Jeff?
I do have the water bottle here. I do. It is here. It is here. It is present. Maybe we can put a hat. Jeff doesn't wear backwards hats. Here we go. All right, phone. Shout out Jeff. He's taking over. Shout out Jeff. Just real quick. Morning Woodward Show. Lions pregame show. Tune in 9:30 to 11:30 Sunday. He's taking over, man. He's the lead host, and he is doing his thing all Lions season. I can't wait for you all, though, to see what we have in store for Pistons season. That's why his name is still down there. He does a lot behind the scenes, and I can't wait until you guys see what we have in store. So let's get this drum roll started, Mike. I know we've made the people wait long enough, but it's a special occasion when we got our Detroit News brethren in the house. So, hey, yo! Shout out and welcome to the legend Detroit News, Rod Beard, as well as Pistons beat writer of the Detroit News, Mike Curtis. But Rod Beard, I got to go to you first, brother. How are you doing this morning?
It's a wonderful Wednesday morning. It's getting closer. You can sense that basketball is starting to come back, and you can sniff it a little bit.
Oh, man, yeah. I'm ecstatic, man. Mike, brother, how are you doing, brother? Man, it's good to have you on.
It's been a minute. I think last time I was here, I had a fade, so it's
I love it, man. I love it.
I mean, it's better than saying last time you were in here, I had a fade.
That's true. That's true.
There you go.
That's very true.
You don't rock it out in a minute, though.
Over here looking like Gohan now, man. Got the hair kind of growing out and everything. I love it, man. The Dragon Ball Z references, we got to drop it. But, Mike, I'm going to ask you really quickly, just what are you looking forward to as we're getting closer to this Detroit Pistons season? And then I'm going to kick it away to Rod for Rod's thoughts.
Yeah. I think what's going to be interesting about this year, first year, Monty Williams, everybody wants to know, is he going to live up to anywhere close to the record contract that he got, signing for $78.5 million for 6 years, largest contract in NBA history. I think a lot of people are wondering, is he going to take this team that won 17 games last year to anywhere near the play-in game? If that's an adequate benchmark that we can place that at. Is he going to turn this team around to make a potential playoff run in the next couple of years, especially in the early part of his deal? So I think specifically for this year, I think people want to see, is this going to be a more improved team, a more consistent team, a more healthy team, and a more disciplined team than we saw last year?
Yep.
Man, you sound like Monty Williams, man. Some of the research I was going through and doing, I'm like, all right. As Rod has said, Mike has done his homework, man. He's well studied and ready for the assignment. So I like that, man. I like that. I'm ready for this already. Rod, you got to take it away, man, with Rod's thoughts, unless you had some follow-up comments to what Mike Curtis was saying.
No, man. Mike's words carry their own weight, so I don't need to add anything there. My thought is this FIBA World Cup team. No medal, huh? No medal.
Bro, Rod has hated this team.
Huh. No big man. Huh. Strangest thing. I think there should be some disappointment about that performance and finishing in fourth place. And we saw kind of the cracks starting when they lost to Lithuania, that something wasn't quite right. And then you could just see teams exploiting that, exposing that no big man. And if you go at 3J, yeah, he's the defensive player of the year, but also what do you have after that? You don't have big man depth.
No rebounding.
And so you're going to be deficient. And I think maybe the thought was these tweeners, these sort of Paolo type players can get in there and do something. The world ain't hearing that, man. The world is out here trying to snap necks and take medals. And so the immediate response that Bron is out here and he's trying to get Steph to go to the Olympics is sort of, okay, what can that look like? And if you're getting a superstar team like that, is Cade in that same consideration for that? Because you look at the players on paper, and this is why players on paper and teams on paper don't work. For Brandon Ingram to play the way that he played and to look the way that he looked, it just is something about it that these all-star teams don't always fit together. And again, Brandon, you've run a ton. You can't just take the 5 best players on the court. You need cohesion. You need chemistry. You need people who don't need the ball in their hands to be effective. And a lot of those guys are used to that on their individual NBA teams. So you can sniff the basketball season about to come back, but I'm eager to see, as we start looking ahead to the Olympics, whether we're going to see an all-star, all-redeemed team 2 or whatever they're going to call it, or you're going to see this kind of hybrid in between Bron and a couple of those guys, the legends, and some additional young guys who are up-and-comers. And again, I think Cade needs to be on that team. You may not need as many ball handlers, but if you're going to start passing the torch, you need to start giving that to some guys like Cade. And I think when we've talked about it a million times, Cade has that it factor of, I'm not letting this game or this season or this anything get away from me in that sense. And Jalen Brunson, I mean, say what you will about this FIBA World Cup team. I think they showed their flaws, but I think there are some opportunities there.
Yeah, it's actually funny you mentioned it. I want to hop in real quick because Kyle Kuzma tweeted the other day, like, USA basketball better get some NBA stars that know how to play a role. Anybody can be nice with the ball in their hands, but can you be cool defending and going to the corner for a few possessions?
Mm-hmm.
I think that exemplifies exactly what you just said. I think Cade would actually be a more equipped facilitator for a group like that. And it's funny because right when he tweeted that, Devin Booker retweeted him real quick and said, I'll do it. And I think we saw that from Devin Booker before when he was on the, I think, 2020 team. You don't need him to go out and be a star. You want him to shoot as much as he can, but if he's able to just spot up and shoot, that's kind of like the best version of Book you're going to get.
If you got Book in the corner, what kind of team do you have? If Book is just a dude standing in the corner.
That's wild. You know what? I'm so glad that this type of conversation is coming up right now, because I'm telling you guys, all this stuff, it just kind of goes in line with the Monty Williams conversation we're going to talk about.
Yep.
I kind of have this thing broken down into several pieces, like his effect on the Phoenix Suns rebuild as a whole, kind of philosophy. his effect on the offense, his effect on the defense, and then kind of what some of those players were kind of stating early on with how he helped their development. I'm just sitting here looking at his actual effect, his coaching tree, as well as where certain players that went on that are still with Phoenix and some that kind of left and went on to other players and just what they are now. And I'm just like, man, he's made an impact. And so it's like, we're hearing a little bit of what we know will definitely help USA basketball. And I think that the Pistons, they kind of have that recipe already in the mix of Cade Cunningham, some of their young talent, the defensive philosophy and identity that I believe that they're going to take on, and just who Monty Williams is as a coach, like his offensive style. I'm just ecstatic, man. But I wanted to just kind of ask before we got into it, is there anything, I know, Mike, you kind of started the show with it, but is there anything more, and I'll ask you, Rod, too, that you're looking forward to Monty Williams being able to change right away with these Detroit Pistons?
Go ahead, Mike.
Right away? I'm not sure if it'll be right away because it takes some time to break old habits. And I think some of the defensive lapses that they had last year, I think it was just honestly out of effort. I think you can teach that, you can encourage that, but I think it has to come over time. We'll see what happens during training camp. That's why I really want to see these first few preseason games just to see how they match up against the OKCs, against Dallas, against against I can't think of the other one right now, but just to see how they're gonna come out defensively. And we know that Monty Williams is known for his defensive prowess. We know how he develops players. You take a look at how he took a guy like Mikal Bridges, who is known for his defense, and just spot up shooting in Phoenix, and he became probably Brooklyn's top guy over there after the KD trade, along with Cam Johnson, who kind of stunk up the joint in FIBA. And it's funny because every Pistons fan wanted.
That's y'all, dude. That's y'all king. Y'all wanted Cam Johnson.
For Cam Johnson. And you saw what he did when he was out there with a group of not even like similar type of players, but someone on the same caliber as him. He kind of just didn't fit the mold. I'm just looking forward to how he can take a guy like you mentioned Isaiah Stewart, how he can take a guy like Cade. Maybe he can become his own super version of Cade. If we already see regular Cade, we see a Super Saiyan version. There go another Dragon Ball Z reference for you. I think that'll be pretty cool to see.
I do too, man. I love this, man. I love this, man. Basketball talk, real basketball talk, getting into the philosophy of it all. But Rod, what is it that you're hoping, Monty Williams can affect right away? If not right away, what do you hope is the path that this team is on?
I think it's just some swag. Just bring some swag to it. That they're playing a certain style, of fast up and down style that suits the players. I want to see if that sort of takes hold. And we talked about it before that Cade said at Summer League that he was eager. The players are eager to play for Monty, and it's no slight on Dwayne Casey. It's more of they've seen stuff. They understand what he did at Phoenix. They want to have that same energy boost brought to them. So I'm just interested in these first couple of preseason games, like Mike said, to see what he does there, but then what these lineups start to look like and the rotations start to look like. Does that translate over? Do you have the same starting lineup, or do you just do something completely different and say, hey, you know what? We're bringing Bojan off the bench, or we're starting Osser, and we're just going to do something completely different. It's not the same old cookie cutter. We know what Dwayne is going to bring us because he was here last year. Now Monty could do something completely different. And that's just different. Different is generally good in the beginning because you just don't know what to expect.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect with it either, because Monty Williams he's been a very interesting coach. And I just kind of want to read some things, some quotes from some people when he was hired here in Detroit, as well as when he was hired in Phoenix. And it's just kind of interesting to just the degree that people hold him in. Stephen A. Smith of ESPN, hired by Detroit as a leader of men and has the support of the total coaching fraternity and beyond. He knows how to perform on the court and off of it as well. This is why they've made the investment in him that they have. Another thing, I want to credit the Phoenix Suns organization as well. They dropped a pretty cool documentary a couple years ago called Breakthrough, which gives a lot of insight into and behind the scenes of who Monty Williams is as well. So I want to make sure I credit that as well. And on there, they stated that he has no ego. He wants to help and he wants to sustain, not just winning, but their ability to be positive people on and off the court. This like everybody that they interviewed about Monty Williams continued to have this same refrain about who he is as a person and how he saw kind of better in other people and wanted to continue to work to bring better out of other people, both on and off the court. You know, I didn't get, and some of this is from different sources, so I don't get the feel that this is just some PR blast. Everybody say this about Monty. It feels authentic. And it should excite Detroit Pistons fans as it relates to, you know, not maybe knowing as much as much as we know about other Pistons coaches because we're just getting to know Monty, but just to kind of hear how other people have continued to talk about him has just been refreshing for me. But let me see here. They talked about the fact that he wants more basketball minds around to give even more individualized help for players, because they said that where Monty goes, you will notice not just a big coaching staff, but a coaching staff with some names on it too. You will look through a staff and say, yo, these are guys that have been like or could be head coaches other places. I just kind of snapped a screenshot today of Willie Green in the room with the Phoenix Suns during the bubble years. And it's like, you know, Jared Jack was also in that room. And now, you know, he brings Jared Jack here to the Detroit Pistons, and just kind of at the first and some of the other press conferences that he's been at, Mike, you know, and Rod being in a room, you see some of these people being at the practice right before they left for Vegas Summer League. You see all of these different people kind of in there, and they're able to kind of give this specialized, individualized training and assistance to the guys rather than maybe a coach or a few others that are kind of going group by group by group. I remember seeing old videos at Pistons practices where Pistons fans were going to town. They're like, why is Andre Drummond just practicing by himself and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you know that in every practice, these players are going to have their time by themselves. Mm-hmm. But it is refreshing to go in and see, you know, when we go in, every player is working with somebody. We saw Duren and Wiseman, I believe, working with somebody, with a trainer. Well, when we were there to interview Asar and some of those guys, you remember that, Mike, for the media day, right before they left for Vegas, the practice?
I believe they were working with Brian Randall, one of the assistant coaches.
Yep. And then on the other end of the court, you see Cade and you see Stu working with a couple. On the other side, you see another set of players working, and then you see some of the Summer League players as well working, just everybody with somebody. I saw some people off to the side working on and speaking to coaches about different things. Man, that to me, that makes me very ecstatic for what Monty Williams is going to bring, because that means that the attention to detail and his voice is something that's going to continue to kind of be there. The philosophy, the standards, it's going to be kind of throughout everything that these players do, and the conversations they have with their coaches, the film sessions, everything's going to be in sync. And that's, to me, to kind of just speak to what I believe Monty Williams is going to affect right away. I believe it's the attention to detail, the focus of the players. And that's something that everybody from Cam Johnson to Mikal Bridges, they stated when Monty got there, the first several things he did was, and Jevon Carter was on that team too. We know that he's an organizational favorite. I've heard him talked about from Troy Weaver to Dwayne Casey. He talked about the fact that one of the first things Monty did when he got here was shook everybody down at the door for their egos. He said, and then he even went a step further. He said, including Devin Booker. He said, yeah, well, including Book. You know, all of them, everybody had to shake their egos out the door. Everybody, he said, Monty Williams had this quote specifically as it relates to the defense. He said, we have some talent. We are not that talented, though, on the defensive end. We are not there yet. We are not connected yet. We are still getting to know each other. I am still not going to accept bad defensive performances. Mm-hmm. We've sat here the last couple of years and we've stated, well, they got to learn, they got to this, they got to that. Monty came into Phoenix and said, I don't care what you have to learn. You're going to try hard every night. You're going to stay connected. And his biggest thing defensively for a young team that's still learning to play together and play connected on the offensive side, help side defense. He wants everybody helping. And he helped Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Kelly Oubre. You know, that's another player. We talk about the wings that came from Monty Williams, bro. He helped turn all of these guys, and he coined this term for them, the switchables, bro, where they can play all together at the same time. You're talking about Mikal Bridges, Oubre, Devin Booker, and Cam Johnson. They had lineups where these guys could all play at the same time or be interchangeable. And that leads me to something we were talking about, Rod, as it relates to Asar Thompson. Playing more of, can he play like that Cade role? I do think that he's going to be somebody that can be kind of more a part of this Detroit interchangeables as related to what Monty Williams had. But defensively, that's where I believe the Pistons are going to kind of take the biggest leap in the next year, just kind of listening to his philosophy and his principle and whatnot. And I wanted to be able to kind of get your take on it, Mike, first and foremost. Just some of the things that you've seen out of him. One of the cool things I saw him do was kind of turn Aaron Baines into, it was his best season of his career. I wanted to ask, what do you believe as you look at what he did with Aaron Baines? It was like 11.5 points per game, I believe it was. All of his advanced stats went up for that 1 year for Aaron Baines. It was the best year of his career. And that was in place of, I think, Ayton, who went down with a big injury. And a lot of people say small hands, undersized, not that much athleticism for Aaron Baines. With Isaiah Stewart, people are wondering why the big contract, why the big deal. They're saying he's a little undersized, small hands, has some athleticism, but not, earth-shattering. How do you believe Monty Williams comes in and helps Isaiah Stewart in this team's defense?
Yeah, so I think last year we saw Stu take a little bit of a jump more so on the offensive end. We knew he was a defensive anchor for this team since he arrived in Detroit in 2020. But I think we saw him stretch out to the perimeter. We saw him briefly put the ball on the floor a little bit. And I think we're going to see that a lot more this season. I remember I think the same practice that you were referring to, we saw Cade and Stu working out together. Stu was pretty mainly in the mid range, getting shots up. I think that's one of the first times I've ever seen Stu consistently knock down mid range jumpers. So if he's able to kind of play between the post and between the perimeter, right there in that mid range, just like Cade is pretty proficient at getting that. We saw Ivy kind of work his magic late during the season in the mid range, but if Stu's able to kind of add that to his game, putting the ball on the floor, I think that'll unlock his game and take it to the next level and kind of make that extension worth it. Because I think you always want to see your guys develop, and I think as long as Stu sticks to the basics, he's a great defender. He's a below average 3-point shooter, but I think that's just because of his shoulder injury from last year. But if he's able to become league average, I think that'll be just fine for this team. And if he's able to show that he can put the ball on the floor and take guys off the dribble, I think that'll just unlock his game even more.
Yeah. And you know what? With Aaron Baines, that's something that I saw when I was kind of looking through the stats. I was like, man, this guy went from literally shooting no threes to shooting 4 threes a game, 3-4 threes a game underneath Monty Williams. It was interesting in the way that they used him. I would definitely suggest to fans, if you're wondering how they may use Isaiah Stewart to some degree, especially if his 3-point percentage continues to improve, which is, in my opinion, already better than Aaron Baines at that time. Go back and look at that time. That year to me was very, very crucial as it relates to what we can expect out of this Pistons team if they're coming in as a serious and a mature team. And Rod, I kind of want to get your thoughts on it as well, man. As you're kind of looking at Isaiah Stewart and as well as this defense, if you kind of want to take a stab at that as well. What ways do you think, kind of looking at Monty of the past, do you see him coming in and making a difference with this Pistons team?
And let me take a shot on Aaron Baines too, because I remember that 2016-17 season, the 2 years that he was here in practice and times there, he was shooting threes. That was during the Stan era though. And Stan wasn't a 3-point shooting center type guy. He was trying to get more from and Baines was off the bench. So that was that second unit. So it was a little bit different. But to your point, Baines could shoot the 3. He just didn't for whatever reason. So if you're saying Monty is unlocking that in him and allowing him to do that and to take those opportunities, then yeah, that makes you see this guy out here shooting it, and you figure out a way that you can utilize it and incorporate it into your offense. So I think that's part of it too. But I think for Monty, it is just making people better. We all knew that Book was really good. He just didn't have a surrounding cast to bring that out and to be able to show that. And let's take the Cam Johnson piece of it, that he's good in that role. And that's what we were afraid of with him coming to the Pistons, is that he might have to be more of a number one type scorer guy. And if he can't be that secondary guy on the FIBA team, then again, that's the chemistry piece. And how do you make that all work? Mm-hmm. And so if Monty is figuring out a way to, Cam Johnson, you're bigger than this role, but I need you to play this role. And if he can get your Ivies, your Durens, your Bogdanoviches, just be in this role, be the best player at your position in what we ask you to do that night, then I think that can start to pay some dividends. And then you're also kind of taking your Bagleys and your Wisemans, and if you can fit them into that and make them do what they do well, then I think that can be the biggest thing. And so it is, on one hand, Troy is just kind of picking all of these pieces off the branch and putting them in the basket and saying, let's figure out what we can do with them. You just need the right coaching staff to hone that and to sharpen that and to put those players in that position. Now we've got you, we've given you a role, excel in this role, and then we can figure something else out after that. And I think Monty and his staff can do that.
Yep, that's exactly one of the quotes that I got, man, where somebody said, this is what he excels at, is taking these young, talented players, as well as being able to kind of identify where other people might have miscast or mischaracterized players and be able to get more out of them. We often talk about, the campaigns, amongst our circles. Jeff and I, we talk about the people he's kind of resurrected their careers. Even Ricky Rubio, to a degree, during that time. There was a lot of different people who he went in there, saw what they were, and was able to really, really coach them up. And he said this, though, there's no substitute to what the player does. He said, I can talk all day. Yep. I can guide you. I can teach you. I can this. And I'm going to try and get you as much of the right help as possible. And that's why his staff looks the way it does. But these players have to put in the work. And just kind of finish up on the defensive aspect of it. His philosophy is be there for your brother. That's a quote. That's his quote. He believes in help, and more help defense. And Pistons have sorely lacked in that department. So I look forward to what he's going to bring right away to these Pistons, where they may lack in nuance, where they may lack in, one-on-one defense and such. I hope that they have that, when you get in there and you run with that five, doesn't matter what level of basketball it is. You've never played with each other, but everybody's hustling on defense. Everybody is like, yo, I got your back and all of that. You guys know that feeling. It no matter what the sport is, man, you can walk up and play doubles tennis with somebody. And it's like when y'all crushing together and you got each other's back, man, that philosophy, it just gets you pumping, man. It just does. It's part of the reason why I love doing this stuff, man. It doesn't matter what it is. When you with people that I got your back, it's way different. And I think that's what's at the crux of what Monty Williams is bringing defensively to change things. Because when I first heard, I'm like, how are you changing things realistically without making sure these guys know where to be? Even Troy Weaver said, Asar Thompson's going to have to learn the nuances, so we may have to pump some sort of brakes. But Monty is like, I'm not really giving them that excuse. I want them to play hard, stay connected, and care. He used that word a lot, care for each other. And all those players said he brought that to us. They said that's why they didn't get crushed during the bubble, is that they came together because it was already what Monty Williams was doing when he got there. Cam Payne said, when I first met him, I knew my career was going to take a different path. That's crazy, bro. That's wild. Like he said, he knew his path. He said, I felt like I could just trust him and I could feel confidence in myself from him. That to me is crazy, man, because we know Cam Payne's career was kind of whatever. And that time was kind of one of his periods in time where people say, yeah, he kind of took a very, very positive step forward. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, the effect he had on the Phoenix Suns offense, his philosophy here, and one that I actually welcome. I really hope he brings this to the Pistons. Shout out to the Phoenix Suns for sharing this. The 0.5 second offense. Dribble, drive, or shoot it. make your decision to do one of them, and get into it within 0.5 seconds. When I kind of looked at the video, looked at how their offense runs, they swing the ball. Their philosophy is tire out the defense. They don't want to just play offense against a defense that's ramped up, geared up, picking stuff off and going down. And the old Pistons, they were kind of ISO heavy, even going back to Blake and even the attempts with Andre Drummond. They've been ISO heavy for a while. The one thing that they stated Monty Williams changed with the offense when he got to the Phoenix Suns was taking the offensive load and the usage and what he was doing with the ball of Devin Booker and changing that a little more. They put him more in a position, and the whole team, when they did this mandate, it wasn't like they said 0.5 second offense, but D-Book, you can do whatever you want. No, they said that Devin Booker had to buy into this philosophy too, and it proves it in the numbers. And his effect on the team overall, it went up. His free throws went up. His field goal percentages went up. His three-point percentage actually went up a lot too. That to me was just like, wow, maybe Monty Williams knows what he's doing. It created more drive lanes and more cut lanes for the athletic players because Monty believes in attacking the rim with ferocity. And he doesn't want guys to just go and kind of be laying it up. We're looking at the footage. He's telling them in practices, and he's telling them like on the sidelines. He's telling them in the games, attack the rim, put somebody through the rim. And Kelly Oubre said he started to really develop that mentality kind of underneath his tutelage. We were talking about we need a Rasheed Wallace here because that's the mentality he was giving to Andre Drummond. Monty Williams is walking in the door with that mentality. He wants people to attack the rim. And that's what this 0.5 second offense is supposed to affect. Effectively getting people who are playmakers, who are smart, who can play at all three levels and score at all three levels, no matter your proficiency or your efficiency. He believes you get these guys moving, you get them hot, and you'll see their percentages actually go up versus what they've shown in the past. And so based on that, I just want to kind of, get you guys' take on Monty Williams and this Pistons offense, knowing that 0.5. Who are you looking forward to the most within this offense, and who do you think it benefits the most when you hear this 0.5 second offense? Get it in your hands, get it out, make a decision, shoot it, something.
Yeah, well, I mean, the 0.5 was one of Dwayne's points too that he wanted to try to do, and you can have a philosophy and a system in place. It's just how well do you execute it is going to be the question. I think offensively, who's going to benefit is also Jalen Duren, because if you look at what happened with having a big man, and we talked about it with the FIBA also, is getting back to using big men and posting up effectively. And if you can do that with Ayton, you might be able to do that with Duren the same sort of way. And you can start comparing and contrasting Ayton and Duren. But I think it is that 0.5 mentality, moving the ball around, and eventually getting it into the post and making a quick decision with Duren. I like Duren's quickness more than Ayton's, and that athleticism a little bit more than Ayton. So I think it could benefit him there. But it's if you're beholden to the philosophy, you move the ball around, and Cade is the catalyst for that, then you can operate and do everything more efficiently and effectively.
I like that, man. I wasn't even thinking Jalen Duren as one of the bigger benefactors, but as you kind of explained it, it was just like, yeah, I believe he's going to be the Piston to kind of take the biggest leap forward in terms of us seeing like, oh, yeah, he's that guy. Some of these other people we kind of know. But Jalen Duren, I think he's going to kind of cement it this year. And based on what you kind of described, that's kind of the path to it. They play faster, and it's like he's the guy down there. It's going to be fun to lob the ball up to him, especially if they're playing this way. I was looking at the Phoenix Suns do what they do, and it was just like, let me put on these glasses, because most people think three-point shooting, and it's just like their passing was so crispy, man. Ricky Rubio lived in the paint because everybody was just like, they just swing. Ricky Rubio gets it. Bah, 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 bah. Devin Booker gets it. Da, 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 da. And then you think they're about to score, 4 people collapse, and D-Book has 3 people he can pass it to, man. It's just boom. And it's just like, this is beautiful basketball. The Phoenix Suns, they said that when they got there, we have the restore. That's what their whole philosophy was. They had to change the narrative, they said, of what the Phoenix Suns were in the NBA and to the NBA world in general, fans and everybody. So it's he kind of already has this mentality. And as it relates to the offense, and you mentioned Cade, having Cade and how that unlocks everything. I just want to kind of read these stats before I get your take on it too, Mike Curtis, of Devin Booker. So comparing the year before to when the year that Monty Williams took over, Devin Booker, he drew tons of driving lanes off this offense, taking him from off the 3-point line to more into mid-range and into the paint more. And I had some people when I was kind of talking to them about this say, yeah, but his 3-point percentage went up, blah, 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 blah. And I say, but look at the advanced stats. His 3-point adjusted rate, it went down from 33% to 31%. He took less threes, meaning he was buying more into the philosophy. And that's what you were saying, Rod, that the execution is what matters. And whatever he's going to do to be able to help that, man, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it because you got to have a coach who the players, when you're speaking, there's a way that this thing gets through. Because I believe that Dwayne Casey was saying a lot of the right things. As his talent rises and as his team kind of moves into this phase, I think that Monty Williams, again, is going to be a guy who's saying the right things. But Mikal Bridges said it more specifically. He said he came in, and Kelly Oubre said it as well, and he just knows how to say it the right way that we get it. And that was pretty cool to me. But some more of these advanced metrics of Devin Booker when Monty Williams took over. Field goal percentage went from 46 to 49%. 2-point percentage went from 43.6 to 54.9. His 3-point percentage went from 32.6 to 35.4%. Free throw rate went from 36 to 39%. So getting him more in those driving lanes, getting people more on his back hip, it allowed Devin Booker to be able to draw more fouls. It allowed him to be able to get more looks in that mid-range. And that, honestly, is what made me excited about Cade Cunningham. I compared him early on to Devin Booker when it was in the draft because of that mid-range and his ability to play in those kind of at all three levels. But, Mike, when you hear this offense, what player do you believe is going to benefit the most from it? And how do you believe it's going to affect the Pistons offense overall?
Yeah, so if we remember from last year, we all know Cade wasn't available for 70 games. That meant Bojan Bogdanovic was number one option. And we saw Jaden Ivey kind of assume that role later into the season once they shut Bogey down. But once the ball kind of got in their hands, it became ISO or nothing. Because they were the two primary offensive just weapons for the Pistons. So if we take Bogey out of it, I'm kind of looking at Jaden Ivey and how he fits in with Cunningham. How he plays off of Cade Cunningham. Last year was his first year ever really playing the point guard position. So I'm looking to see how he's going to adjust to being kind of off the ball. I never want to look into any type of mixtape highlight situation, but when you look at the Rico Hines runs, because that's the only small size we have from this summer.
We need basketball so bad. We need NBA basketball back so bad, bro.
And they rolling these clips out like so slow, but like I learned I learned last year to take those things with a grain of salt because you're only seeing what they put out. You're not seeing what goes on behind the scenes when the cameras are off. You're not seeing the misses. You're only seeing just pretty much the successes. There's a word in there if you let it preach. But if you take a look at a guy like Jaden Ivey who needs the ball in his hands, I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets his shots. Is he going to be driving to the rim off cuts? I know pretty much early in the season when he was playing with Cade Cunningham last year, we saw him cutting. We saw Cade feeding him the ball, and he was getting easy layups at the rim. Is he going to be a catch and shoot guy? Is that 3-pointer a little bit better than what it was last year? I don't think so. I think Rod's giving the head nod.
I don't want him to be a catch and shoot player. No. No. Let's do something else.
We know that he was working on that mid-range, and I think that's going to be a crucial part of his offense this year. So I'm interested to see how Monty kind of affects or takes Jaden to that next level because he's a capable scorer. He just has to be a little bit more efficient.
I was wondering, can we look at the improvement and the maturation in the game of campaign as a potential for or draw any conclusions with Jaden Ivey at all?
I don't like that comparison.
Now that's a 1-to-1 comparison, but just in the ways that he utilized them. Is there a 2 guard on the Phoenix Suns team or a player on that team that you could look at and you say, you know what, I can kind of see how Monty is going to utilize Jaden Ivey?
Ivy's a different dude. It's really hard to try to draw a one-to-one comparison with that.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. Yeah, me neither. I sure, like, even in the notes, I was sitting here going through it, looking at the different players. I was like, Cade, obviously Devin Booker. There's some similarities. Isaiah Stewart, the way he's utilized, I think he's going to be much more effective than Aaron Baines. I think he has more skill, and if he's utilized in the same manner and can kind of execute in the same ways, I think you're going to see an Isaiah Stewart who is definitely worth that contract. Asar Thompson, I saw exactly what they see in Asar Thompson when I kind of looked at how they developed their wings, all four of them and beyond. I saw exactly kind of the way that they want to attack. And on Asar, he said that he's mostly attracted to his toughness. Like right away, it was, I guess, his toughness, man, his toughness. Obviously, there's other things, but he said, as it relates to the off the court stuff, what he really liked about Asar Thompson is his attention to details relates to relationships. He wants to build relationships. He wants to have that continuity on and off the court with his players, and I think that is something very, very key. When we look at these 2004 Pistons, when we look at the bad boy Pistons, that's something that they had on and off the court was this continuity. So I look forward to what the offense is going to look like. I think Asar Thompson is somebody that's going to ultimately, from an individual standpoint, if I share mine, that's who I'm hoping to see be affected the most out of this. A lot of people came into this saying, oh, he can't shoot threes. Bro, they changed Mikal Bridges' entire shooting mechanics underneath Monty Williams. They helped him become a better three-point shooter and a better defender, and took better advantage of those wing players' athleticism as it relates on the offensive side, but also put them in much better positions defensively. They all talked about this one thing, footwork. All of the players on that wing, they continue to say it's footwork. And so I look forward to seeing this Asar Thompson that all of us through Summer League, we were like, you know what? He's much better than, he's high school player playing against high school players. Now he's ready for the NBA to some degree. The commentators say his strength is on a whole nother level. Now you're going to be able to get Monty Williams, who is known as a leader of men and a molder of young talent, an opportunity to kind of come in here like he did with the Phoenix Suns and really turn them into something different. And it only took really a couple years for him to get his hands into the Phoenix Suns to turn them into something. I don't believe that the Pistons have as much talent as that Phoenix Suns team did, but I do believe they have some really good talent. When you add a Cade Cunningham in the mix, I think anything is definitely possible. But I wanted to be able to break it down, wanted to be able to go through it today. There were other quotes and whatnot that I kind of just wanted to share as we kind of bring it to a close. Mikal Bridges, as much as he wants us to be great players, he wanted us to be better people. This is all their comments on Monty Williams. He said, I felt like we had trust before I even started playing. Kelly Oubre, he puts responsibility on the leaders. It's a trust thing. Cam Johnson, he said his greatest quality as a coach is to bring us together and direct our focus to where it needs to be. Whether we're playing well or in a slump, he always has the right thing to say to keep us on track. And Monty Williams, he stated that it was kind of seeing that same kind of desire and recipe amongst this group of talent, and as well as Troy Weaver and the generosity of Tom Gores that kind of led him here. The last thing I'll share as it relates to the quotes on Monty Williams before we kind of get our final takes is on Jermaine Jones, who hired Monty Williams in Phoenix. I'm trying to look at the quote here. Rod, did you have any last words?
So I'm looking at this first year of Monty in 1920 in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Previous year, 19 wins, and he got him to 34 in 20. Obviously, COVID shortened season. I might say this team has more talent. This Pistons team has more talent. That team had Ayton, Book, Bridges, rookie Cam Johnson, Oubre, and Ricky Rubio and Saric. I mean, you could argue, But if he took that team from 19 to 34, I think that's the kind of expectation that people are having for this year, is to make some huge jump. And digging in the numbers again, offensive rating the previous year was 105.9, and they were 28th in the league. His first year, 111.7, up to 12th in the league. And the defensive rating was 29th, brought him up to 17th. So I think that's the sort of immediate, swift change that people are looking to see, is can he make that type of transformation? Points per game from 23rd to 10th. So can you have an immediate impact? Can you come in and affect change very quickly in your first year with the roster you have? And you can argue and say whether this Pistons team is more talented than that Phoenix team was. I think it's a reasonable argument. You could say there's just as much talent. And I think you would be okay in saying there's as much talent on this team as there was on that.
I like that distinction. I really do. And I think it's an important distinction because I want to set proper expectations for the Detroit Pistons. I want to set proper expectations for Monty Williams. And sometimes with us, it's a little hard to say that these players are as talented as they are because we've been snake bitten before. But as I say with the Lions, from ownership to front office, coaching,
Don't do
to
it.
the players,
Don't do it.
this is the most complete that we've seen the Lions. And this, up to this point, is the most complete that we've seen the Pistons in some time. I hope I did. Those are safe statements, right?
Okay. Most
From coaching
complete.
to front
Most
office,
complete. Most
ownership
complete.
to the players and the talent we have. We've had other starts where they were rebuilding, and it was not as hopeful. We've had the Josh Smith era. We had the Brandon Knight. We had the Stanley Johnson. And these are times where we were like, yeah, we're going to believe in them. And so I think when we come into this, to me, I'm just like, well, maybe they're not as talented as Phoenix. I want to say that they are. I want to say that there's a great argument. But part of me is just like, man, can we be snake bitten by Duren or Ivy or any of these guys? I don't think we are going to be, personally. But it's just like with the Lions. Like, they just walked into KC and just beat them. Like, what world are we in? That's not even supposed to happen. Like, the script writer failed. Let me read these quotes, man. What's up, Mike?
I'm gonna tell you what I want to see. Day one. First preseason game is against the Suns. It's against Monty's old team. I want to see the Pistons come out and set the tone. I want to see them treated like a regular season game. I want to see them come out and just pretty much say we're not gonna get punked. I know it's 3 All-Stars over there plus Ayton. But we're going to ride for our coach, and this is how we're going to set the tone for the rest of the year. So that's what I want to see with preseason game number 1, October 8th against Phoenix Suns.
Mike, man, you got me feeling pumped up, bro. I can run through a brick wall right now. TM Kool-Aid.
It wasn't that good. It wasn't that good.
Oh, man. Look, Jermaine Jones had this to say about Monty Williams, and I think it's important because he's looked at as one of the brightest basketball minds kind of in the game right now. And he said that Monty Williams kind of sold him on being the team that controls their own destiny. He said he had a focus on the fundamentals with championship habits. He said, so if there was a chance to get him here, we had to do it. And that was when a lot of teams were kind of after Monty Williams when he was let go. Devin Booker said it started with Monty. And again, he said, the whole notion was about changing their entire reputation by changing their identity. I mean, I started with how hard this team was going to work from day one. And I just like, you know what? If that's going to be your identity that you're going to scrap, like, okay, yeah, we have a lot to learn. We're talented. We have places that we have to get to. But starting today, we're going to work hard. Starting today, we're going to have our brothers back. Starting today, we're going to make sure we're diving on the floor. Starting today, there's no excuse for not playing hard on defense. That type of stuff to me, I'm just like, you know what? That screams Detroit basketball. A lot of people sit here and they talk about, all this money that he was paid. Listen, man, you make investments in things properly. And honestly, Tom Gores has shown to be a pretty good businessman. in his tenure. And I think that with the Pistons, this is going to prove to be one of his best investments with Monty Williams. I just like what he brings to the table. But Rod, man, any last words on Monty Williams, what he's going to do with this squad? And listen, man, you got anything bold? Mike was bringing the heat, man.
I'm gonna leave that to Mike, man. That's that. I'm gonna let y'all young guys handle all the bold statements and the bold takes. I just would like to see Monty have them galvanized and playing for something to, like Mike said, start the season with some swag and say everybody's tuning in to watch this game to see KD and Brad Beal and blah 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 blah. Just like the Lions, we're not going to get punked. We're going to make you notice who we are and take some names away from this. It's like when you're recruiting, you came here to see this guy, but you also noticed Cade. You also noticed Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren on this big stage. Don't forget about that too.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love that. His quote on it, we have talent, but no continuity. So we have to play hard every night. This is from Monty Williams. We just got together, so we have to play hard until we get to know each other better. We have to bring that every single night. That's what he says is going to build chemistry when they asked him about, what are you going to do to bring this young, talented team together? And my final thought, I saved this for the end because I've continued to say, you know what? Injuries play such a big role in what the Pistons are going to do. And we get it. With Cade, that's going to play a huge role. But we've seen this team get off to some bad starts with injuries to people like Marvin Bagley. And the Pistons cannot afford that this season, even to a guy like Isaiah Stewart. And this is what I ultimately liked a lot about Monty Williams coming into this situation. It's almost as if all the bases are covered. When you're a businessman, you're going to sit here and say, how can we make sure we don't wind up in the same situations as in the past? Injuries have plummeted Detroit Pistons from Blake Griffin to Killian Hayes to Cade Cunningham and have devastated their seasons. And in terms of their output, his philosophy, though, and his ability is to coach up the roster. And I know all players say this. I know all coaches say this. I mean, we're going to coach up our roster, next player up. But, Rod, you keep saying this one word, execution. And that's what matters. Monty Williams finds a way to execute as it relates to coaching up. At the beginning of that Phoenix Suns thing, they were hit with injuries. And that's why Aaron Baines got the time that he did. And he was able to, like you said, kind of figure out who this player was, how he could contribute, and they put a lot of players in their best possible position to kind of start this Phoenix Suns march to kind of where they are now. And that, to me, was just the most important thing. The 0.5 offense, to have your brothers back, all of his philosophies, dropping your ego at the door, were to make sure that this team could all go out there with the confidence that's kind of riding high. And so that if you do lose a player here or there, you can still be a well-oiled machine and not have these excuses. I'm glad that he's a coach coming in to eliminate excuses. This is, if you're talking about moving into the next phase, he's at least stating, and this is what he's shown on record at his previous stops, it's just time to play hard. And that I love about Monty Williams, man. Any last words from you guys? Any second last words? Otherwise, man, look, we can get the drum roll started for the legend here. Mike Curtis of the Detroit News, Pistons beat writer.
Mike is bringing it.
Yeah, I enjoy your work. I enjoy your, on the court and off the court, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I enjoy your personality off the court as well. He's just a good dude. He's a good dude, man, cut from a good cloth. So I'm glad to have you out there. I'm looking forward to season 3. Like I said, it's like a family reunion. I'm looking at the dates. Everything is kind of getting closer. I'm just like, it's going to be cool. So Mike, continue to do great work. I look forward to having you on the pod more and more as the season goes on, and maybe even some specialized content this year as we're out there on the beat, man. So keep doing what you do, man. And I appreciate you being here. And Rod, we're going to get this drum roll going for you, man. Hey, yo, shout out and thank you, man. Blessings to the legend, Detroit News, Rod Beard. Brother, I appreciate you, especially your time this morning, man. I appreciate you. You always
absolutely. All right, fellas, have a good day.
Yes, sir. All right, till next time, you all.